Hey, it's Chase from On the Table Gaming, and in this video we're going to be talking about how to make a 30-point beginner list for the free folk in A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game, just by using the contents of the free folk starter set. Now, while most games of A Song of Ice and Fire are played in the 40-point range, when you're first getting started, it can be helpful just to get in a few warm-up games, some learner games to get used to the rules at a lower point cost. In this video, we're going to be using the following items from the free folk starter set. 2 units of Free Folk Raiders, 1 with our commander, Tormund Giantsbane, and we'll also have a unit of Free Folk Trappers and 2 Savage Giants. Essentially all of the combat units provided in the starter box. For our non-combat units, we're going to be fielding Lady Val, the Wildling Princess, and Craster, the Ally of Convenience. Although Mance Raider and the Free Folk Raid leaders that come in the starter set are excellent, and they're important pieces to learn how to use, we're going to be foregoing using them in this list as we're trying to get as many possible units on the table. Be sure to check the War Council app, CMON's official list builder, to make sure that your cards are up to date with the current version of the game. It's a free app that includes all the up-to-date cards, scenarios, and the current version of the rules. We'll be talking about the version 1.5.1 units in this video, and if you've got older cards, don't worry, the points are the same. It's just that some of the units, such as the Giants, have actually had their stats profile increased. As you expand your forces beyond the starter set, you'll have a chance to incorporate additional tribes with Savage Giants, the Noble Thenn, and even cannibals who adorn themselves with bones. But as you're just getting started, at this point, we're going to make ourselves familiar with the forces available in the core set. First, we have the Free Folk Raiders. Now, while not as resilient as the core units of most other factions, what they lack in strength and staying power, they make up for in numbers. Free Folk Raiders must be fielded in pairs, and it can be helpful to think of them not as a 3-point unit each, but really as a 6-point unit that gives you 2 trays of troops and 2 separate activations. Now, while their attack profile is meager, when they're able to activate their gang up ability, they can begin to hit above their weight, and you can use them to your advantage to bog down your opponent, hold objectives, or even trigger Free Folk Tactics cards that require multiple units to be engaged. Of note, the Free Folk Raiders, like the Free Folk Trappers we'll see later, all have the insignificant keyword, which means they do not give up victory points when destroyed. This is actually quite significant because your opponent is not rewarded for killing your units, while you're rewarded for killing theirs, so it's much higher stakes for them when engaging you. Now, with this 30-point list, you'll be using most of your base Free Folk Tactics cards on your actual Raiders, so as soon as the opportunity arises, look to use cards like Group Assault, Regroup and Reform, and Distraction Tactics. You can hang on to Surrounded and Exposed to shut off the offensive abilities of units that might be a more significant threat to your Giants, or to shut down defensive tech so that your Raiders can attempt to push through some damage on more resilient troops. In this list, you'll be using one of the units of Raiders as a bunker for your commander, Tormund Giantsbane. You'll want to use these units to grab objectives or to block your opponents from ganging up on your key pieces. Now, as Tormund gives the unit he's in Shattering Assault, consider keeping the other Raider unit a little bit ahead so that Tormund's unit can charge in and get the bonus effect of Sundering. Now, attacking from the flank with Sundering gives a cumulative -2 to your opponent's defense save. Just make sure Tormund doesn't get charged first. You'll quickly find that individually Free Folk Raiders are easily outmatched in one-on-one combat, so your goal in the first few games should be to try to never have one unit of Raiders fighting by itself. Unless you're trying to stall an enemy unit, your Raiders should be supported by the other unit of Raiders, or ideally with a Giant if they're trying to kill an enemy unit. The second unit type you have at your disposal are the Free Folk Trappers. This is the fastest unit in your list, and with their Hidden Traps ability, they can zone out solo units like Dire Wolves or Jorah Mormont, and you'll want to use Trappers to grab objectives, threaten with their Hidden Traps on high-value targets, and just to generally fire their arrows into the flanks of units. Just remember that firing into combat triggers a panic test on friendly units, so you might need to think twice about firing into combat in which your Raiders are engaged. Instead, consider using them to fire into the flanks when your Giants are engaged. The Giants have much better morale and have a cap on how much morale damage they can take in 1.5.1. Before we move on to Giants, a neat trick to try with Trappers is when you need to claim an objective, but you know that if you claim it, you'll be charged and you'll lose enough ranks for the objective to be contested. Consider instead marching past the objective, taking the charge you would have inevitably have taken anyway, and then use Lady Val's replacement effect to retreat back onto the objective to score for that round. You're going to want to look for little ways like that you can maximize your troops to get ahead, because oftentimes you're going to be winning on scenario. Now we get to the real power of the list though. In this 30-point format, Giants present some interesting challenges for your opponents, and they're durable enough to deal with most generalist units, and since it will most likely take a combined effort to take one down, they're often able to get significant damage off before being defeated. In the 30-point format, you'll want to use your giants as anchor pieces, catching charges and taking damage to boost their retaliatory attack. Remember, they only suffer a wound for every 2 unblocked hits, so units with low dice pools will be likely unable to kill them off in a single attack, and you get to hit back with your bloody giant doing extra damage, so just be careful not to be too greedy. It certainly feels bad failing a key defense roll and allowing your opponent to take them out and give a VP when you've just been walking around with a giant on 1 or 2 health. Remember, giants do not have the insignificant keyword, so they're going to be targets for your opponent. Now, with your 2 non-combat units being ones with zone replacement abilities, it allows you to have access to their effects regardless of what your opponent claims on the tactics board. You can still use Craster to heal minor damage, even if they block you out of the wealth zone, and you can also start to mess with your opponent. If you know they need to take specific zones, you can claim those first, either claiming that ability for yourself or using your replacement effect to get the effect that you want. Don't underestimate the ability of Lady Val to maneuver people on the battlefield, especially getting your giants up early or into key positions they might not expect. Now, what your opponent really has to watch out for is that when they charge your giant, he's going to get more powerful and hit back with more damage. So ideally, you want to catch your opponent, take the damage, and then be able to hit back by either claiming the attack zone on the tactics board or having an activation still. Then the next turn you go first and you can claim the attack zone on the tactics board, smashing them again. Maybe they activate next to hit you back, or if they don't, you can attack again with a giant on your next turn, dealing tremendous amounts of damage and possibly wiping out an entire unit. Now, when it comes to the Free Folk tactics cards, Tormund's tactics cards are going to be a little bit more limiting for you. Most of his tactics cards trigger off of the charge, so once you get engaged, things are going to slow down a bit for you and you're going to realize you're not going to be spending as many cards. So typically, especially when you're starting out, you want to use the tactics cards at every available opportunity you have. Now, that can be difficult, but that's something you want to practice on. And as you get more familiar with them, you can know which ones you want to hold on to against certain opponents. Rallying Assault can be used to keep your giants alive, and while you can use this on your raiders and trappers, you'll certainly get the most value out of it by saving it for your giants. As it takes 2 unblocked hits to cause a wound on a giant, healing them up undoes a lot of the effort your opponents invested into hurting your giants. Now, countercharge is a great way to punish your opponents for going on the offensive. Ideally, you'll be in a situation where your opponent charges your savage giant, whose natural resilience will protect you from most of the damage. Then your raiders or a second savage giant can engage your opponent in the flank. Now, raiders can often struggle to get more meaningful damage through, but a charging in the flank, and especially possibly dealing morale damage, can be a great way to push out damage on superior forces. And when used on a giant, countercharges allows you to get an additional attack on a giant, meaning that you could get 1 for charging off of countercharge, his own activation, attacking with the tactics board, and then hopefully going first next turn, which could be 4 attacks. That's amazing. That's a lot of auto wounds. Finally, Rush of Aggression will help you increase the damage of your Free Folk raiders. Now, while this helps, it's not as inspiring as in lists that include heavier hitters, like your Followers of Bone. That being said, hitting an opponent with the flank, with Tormund's unit in particular, granting a cumulative -2 to armor, that's -1 from Sundering from Tormund, and -1 for attacking in the flank, in addition to then your -1 to morale on your opponent, and making your opponent vulnerable from Tormund. I mean, there's a lot of abilities going on there. Now, the key thing is that while that might be helpful for your raiders to push out some damage, it's not going to benefit the giants in any way, because all they care about is generating a hit, not actually how many hits they generate. So more dice just means you have less chance of rolling a 1. Now, the Free Folk are an incredibly fun faction, and they're one of my favorites for Song of Ice and Fire the Miniatures game. We hope this gives you some ideas about running your first Free Folk force right out of the box. You might be in a store right now watching this, having just purchased it. Great, you can open up and get to playing. Let us know in the comments below how your first few games of Free Folk go. Be sure to like and subscribe. And in the meantime, we hope you get your miniatures on the table.